Who is y'all to tell me what he diagnosed with, what he look like, what he sound like? Y'all don't know nothing about God, and y'all don't know nothing about nothing. You talking to me like that? So I rebuke everything y'all saying about my child, to be honest.
It's time to just say what it is so that you can stop being embarrassed and harboring that guilt. I literally spoke what I saw because I was in.
Before a doctor verified what everyone feared, the whispers, the rumors, and the constant speculation about her son's health, Chrisean Rock believed the internet was simply being cruel. It was more than just hate. It was a legitimate worry that has since been verified by science. We're dissecting everything that preceded this poignant moment, from her child's defense to her sobbing after hearing the doctor's remarks. Despite Chrisean's best efforts to dismiss it as internet jargon, the truth was constantly leaking out. The story didn't begin overnight, so let's go back a bit before we get to Chrisean's emotional collapse. Fans have been speculating about whether Chrisean was prepared to face reality, observing subtle clues and posing challenging questions for months. Everything began when Chrisean Rock proudly shared her baby boy Chrisean Jr. on social media. Fans were initially thrilled to see her new life as a mother at last. She posted videos of herself cuddling, feeding, and simply savoring those peaceful newborn moments. However, it didn't take long for the internet to notice something wasn't quite right. Users started pointing out that the baby appeared abnormally still in the videos that Chrisean shared. His arms and legs were hardly moving, according to viewers, and he was merely lying there with little response to touches or noises. Some remarked on his eyes, stating that they appeared distracted or that he wasn't tracking movement as infants typically do at that age. Then he let out a cry. Supporters noted that his sobbing sounded strained and high-pitched, which some parents thought might indicate neurological problems. Chrisean's posts were inundated with comments. "I'm not trying to be mean, but my daughter had similar symptoms and she ended up needing therapy," someone commented. "It's not hate, it's concern," said another. "I've brought up 3 children. There seems to be a problem, and the sooner she addresses it, the better off the unborn child will be." Additionally, these comments continued to grow as the weeks passed. Each new Chrisean Jr. video sparked new conjecture, while some fans attempted to give her the benefit of the doubt by speculating that perhaps the camera simply happened to catch him in the act. Others maintained that the warning signs were too clear to ignore. Chrisean initially dismissed the criticism, labeling it haters, but the evidence and comments continued to mount. Every time someone asked about the health of her infant, Chrisean clapped back because she couldn't stand it. She fiercely defended herself on Instagram Live and in her stories, calling people horrible for criticizing her child and accusing them of having a negative obsession. She repeatedly reaffirmed, "There's nothing wrong with my baby," defying the flood of internet rumors. She even disclosed that doctors had examined her child and assured her that everything was okay. Chrisean cited his weight, growth, and the love he was surrounded by as evidence that people were creating problems where none existed. She said there were no warning signs or health concerns that needed to be addressed. However, the pushback was personal as well as defensive. People attempting to diagnose her son using their phone screens have deeply frustrated Chrisean. She felt attacked, as if strangers were doubting not only the health of her child, but also her capacity to be a mother. Was judgment, not concern, in her eyes, and she resisted for a while, dismissing all of the criticism, removing some posts, and not considering the possibility that something might be amiss. The viral video that caused even doctors to speak out was the moment she couldn't ignore. Viewers once again noted that Chrisean was not responding or moving much in the video, which showed him simply lying in her arms. This time, real medical experts started publicly commenting on the video as it went viral, rather than just fans. A pediatrician shared a reaction video on social media explaining that although they were unable to make an official diagnosis, the symptoms they observed were concerning. They brought up possible developmental delays, pointing out symptoms like poor muscle tone, impaired reflexes, and trouble keeping eye contact. Some even mentioned traits such as specific facial features, impaired coordination, or neurological symptoms that they connected to fetal alcohol syndrome. Similar worries were expressed by other medical professionals who described the symptoms they observed. ranging from the way his limbs remained limp or rigid to the strange cry that kept coming up in remarks. They urged Chrisean to get her son a thorough medical evaluation and emphasize the importance of early intervention for developmental issues. And after those videos were posted online, it felt like a turning point rather than merely idle conjecture. Even those who had previously stood up for Chrisean were now subtly questioning whether the doctors were correct, as the discussion turned from rumors to grave worries. Things became even more chaotic when Blueface's mother intervened, adding to the strain already placed on Chrisean. When Blueface's mother, Chrisean, finally got to meet her grandson, she didn't hold back when speaking. Her emotional response, to be honest, took many by surprise. Although she couldn't tell if he was staring into space or at her or Chrisean, he acknowledged that she felt heartbroken when she looked at the baby. For Chrisean, that moment appeared to validate what a lot of people had been speculating about online. Something wasn't right, and she didn't think twice about calling out the person she thought was to blame. Chrisean publicly blamed Chrisean's actions during her pregnancy, citing her smoking and drinking as major contributing factors. She stated unequivocally that Chrisean's actions during her pregnancy directly affected the health of the unborn child. Despite the tense relationship between her and Chrisean made it apparent that her worry stemmed from her love for her grandson. However, Carlus's remarks weren't particularly kind. Some believed she was trying to wake Chrisean up to reality by giving him tough love, while others believed she was simply adding insult to injury at a time when Chrisean was already feeling overburdened. Chrisean's remarks made the already complex situation even more dramatic and increased the volume of the online discussion. Fans and followers were becoming increasingly irate at this point. Given the numerous indicators of developmental delays, many people felt that Chrisean wasn't treating the matter seriously enough and were disappointed that she hadn't sought professional assistance for her son sooner. The claims that Chrisean was keeping the baby in the spotlight to maintain her relationship with Blueface instead of putting the child's needs first weren't made by random users. Particularly after her ex-friend Janet spoke up, that story gained momentum. According to Janet, Chrisean was preventing herself from receiving the proper assistance because she was so engrossed in denial about what was going on with her son. The idea that important time was being wasted infuriated the fans even more than the condition itself. A lot of people brought up the fact that a child with developmental difficulties could benefit greatly from early intervention. Waiting, ignoring the warning signs, and dismissing worries were all actions that might have long-term repercussions. And across all platforms, people weren't afraid to express their frustration. Then Chrisean took a subtle but effective action. She ceased sharing pictures of her son on social media. It was a noticeable change for someone who had been posting a lot of details about her life online. All of a sudden, the baby was no longer appearing on TikToks or Instagram stories. Many fans interpreted this as encouraging evidence that Chrisean was finally taking a back seat, opting to parent privately, and perhaps receiving the support her son required away from the scrutiny of the internet. It briefly appeared as though things might be moving in a healthier direction. The criticism subsided somewhat as people believed she was concentrating on her son's growth and acting behind the scenes rather than maintaining online persona. That hope didn't last long though, because when Chrisean recently appeared at a church function, the questions returned with greater vigor than before. It seemed as though perhaps, just possibly, she was listening. The same worries about the baby's behavior and development were still evident, people observed, and suddenly the discussion picked back up with even more fervor than before. Many people were expecting to see signs of progress when Chrisean and her son arrived at the church event, but instead the worries only intensified. Viewers saw that he was still not exhibiting age-appropriate milestones at almost 2 years old. He didn't make eye contact, didn't seem to react to his name, and didn't seem to be interacting with anyone nearby, according to people. Even in a noisy, bustling setting, the baby was seen sitting quietly in the event videos, showing very little movement or reaction. The blank stare that had been discussed earlier was still present, and for many, That was the biggest warning sign. He appeared checked out, according to some viewers, while others were concerned that he wasn't interacting with the outside world in the manner that a child of his age would. The public interpreted this as evidence that nothing had changed and perhaps wouldn't without significant action. They noticed a child who might be falling further behind rather than making progress, and the frustration was rekindled online as many people demanded that Chrisean stop ignoring the warning signs and seek professional assistance right away. Everything seemed to catch up with Chrisean shortly after the church appearance. She addressed the barrage of criticism directed at her in a live online video, clearly emotional. She sounded defensive, but also honest, as if she was torn between sticking to her principles and eventually allowing the reality to set in. She criticized those who were attempting to diagnose her child online, told fans that they didn't understand what she was going through, and insisted that she was doing her best as a mother. Her voice cracked occasionally, and she acknowledged feeling overwhelmed by the constant scrutiny, but it was obvious that she was in pain beneath the defensive words. She emphasized that the doctors had not discovered any issues, but her emotional state betrayed this. The conflict between wanting to think everything was all right and accepting the possibility that it wasn't was visible in real time. Ultimately, the goal of this situation is to ensure that this child receives the support he needs to flourish, not to point fingers or place blame. The most crucial thing is to give him the best chance at a healthy future, regardless of whether that means early intervention therapy or other resources. What are your thoughts then? Will things worsen before they get better, or is Chrisean finally prepared to face reality? For more updates on this, leave a comment, click the like button, and subscribe.